Okay, hey, I'm working from home today, and one of the things that I like to do when I work from home is clean the kitchen. But could you join me while I do that? Because I want to talk about disappointing your children. I had an experience. So here's the thing, for like the last 10 years that I've been a parent, I've been kind of hero worshipped by my boys to some extent, right? Like they might not super adore me the way they adore their mom, but there's always been a level of like, dad is all right. Dad's cool, dad's the man. And I'm not going to say I haven't liked that because it's a cool feeling. It's one of the benefits of being an engaged dad. So many things to pack away. So a good example of that is with Charlie, our youngest, who just last week, for the first time ever, was in my mother's arms and decided to reach out to me because he wanted to be with me, because being with dad is more fun and more cool. And that was a good feeling. And I felt really good until literally 2 or 3 hours later. But to understand why, you need a bit of backstory. So for some reason, my boys have it in their heads that the worst thing a human being could possibly do is smoke. Like cigarette smoke is just horrifying to them. They see someone smoking, I can't believe that person's smoking. I don't know where they get that from because I'm not that judgmental. Like we've told them that smoking is bad, it's a bad idea, it's bad for your health. Like a whole bunch of other stuff that people do. Just because someone smokes doesn't make them a bad person. Like they're not a terrible person because they have a cigarette sometimes, and addiction is complex and we have those kinds of conversations, but somehow we haven't got it out of their heads that smoking equals bad person. I don't know why. Can someone please explain to me why my plates are never clean in this stupid dishwasher? What am I doing wrong? I've cleaned the filter. I don't pack the plates atop one another. This plate should be clean, but it's not. So our castle has one of those old cigarette lighters, and I was showing them how they worked, and that got us into a conversation about smoking. And one of my boys ends up saying, "Oh, Dad, but how do you know how all this works? You've never smoked before." Specifically, how do you know how cigars work, Dad? Because we were talking about the fact that it's harder to light a cigar than a cigarette, and I ended up saying, well, myself and one of my friends who they know very well, we would occasionally smoke a cigar on special occasions. Like, when there was a fun event, a wedding or something, we'd have a cigar, just something that adults do. And this blew their minds. Remember, smoking equals bad person. And now Dad has smoked before, so that means that Dad is a bad person. For one of my kids, this wasn't the biggest deal in the world. He kind of considered it and then moved on. But for another one of my kids, that sat with him the whole day. We had the conversation in the morning, and the whole day through school, right through the afternoon, right until supper that night, this had been melling in his head. And we know this was the case because he eventually brought it up again with my wife, and they had had this whole back and forth. And after a while, she asked him, you seem very upset by this. Are you angry with Dad? And he said, no, I'm not angry with Dad. I'm just really disappointed. Now remember, this is on the same day when my baby has just chosen to come to me because I have some fun. My other child has decided that I am just disappointing. I'm just a disappointment as a father. I'm going to be a disappointment as a husband if I don't keep cleaning up the... I will come back to this, don't you worry. They should make an AI that packs dishes away. I don't want AI to write stories or make movies. I want AI to pack dishes away. Come on, robots. This was a horrifying moment for me because I've made mistakes in the past. I've lost my cool. I've forgotten to do something. And I've always apologized and everything was always fine. Like I was always forgiven very quickly. Yet this thing that had nothing to do with them, that wasn't a terrible thing to have done, and hadn't done it in the last few years even, this was the thing that upset them, and specifically one of them. This was the thing that upset one of them really, really badly. Like, I could have forgotten to pick them up from school for a day, and this would have been worse than that. Like, smoking a cigar once or twice in my life, or 3 or 4, 5 or 6, a few times. Smoking a cigar a few times in my life is worse than if I had forgotten to pick them up from school. That's the kind of reaction we're talking about. And I had no idea how to deal with this. so many bits of cutlery. Here's the thing, I didn't pack this dishwasher yesterday because when I pack the dishwasher, I put all the different bits of cutlery like in the same group so that it's easy to pack away. But that's just me. So he's super disappointed with me. In his mind, he's justified in feeling that way. I don't think he is justified in feeling that way. I don't feel like I should apologize for that because I don't feel like I've done anything wrong. I, as an adult, did something that adults are allowed to do occasionally, right? Well, the real problem is that we keep going on with him about making wise decisions, especially when it comes to their bodies, like making wise decisions about drinking enough water, eating correctly, treating your body well, caring for your body, making sure that other people are also caring for your body and that they're not making you feel uncomfortable. Like, there's a lot of like body talk in our house about thinking through how to best care for this vessel. And I think he felt like I was being hypocritical by doing this thing that he considered to be the worst thing a human being could possibly do to their body. Dad keeps talking about looking after your body, and yet he does this worst thing a person could possibly do with their body. How does that compute? And so we had to have a conversation around, sometimes as an adult, you can choose to do things that aren't the best thing to do for yourself. And in moderation, it's not the end of the world. Adults can have wine occasionally, and wine isn't good for you, but once in a while, not the end of the world. That didn't work for him because this kid is very rules-based. So that day started with me feeling so great as a dad because my baby wants to spend time with me and wants to be with me, and also made me feel so terrible as a dad because I'd done something to make one of my children come to tears with my behavior, even though it was fine. I hadn't done anything wrong. Oh my God. Ugh. Anyway, I still don't fully know how to deal with that. Has that happened to you? Have you, through your actions, even before your kids were alive, have you disappointed your kids? They learned something about it. They were like, whoa, suddenly their worlds have shifted. How did you deal with that? Where you've gone from being kind of like being a hero to more being, oh, this person's kind of human. And kind of human in the sucky way that I don't like. My kids aren't adults yet, right? We're not going to be conversing as adults back and forth for a very long time. I'm still their dad. I'll always be their dad, obviously, but I'm still dad, child. That's the kind of relationship we have still, and I would like to maintain like that. Well, at the same time, I also think it's okay for them to know that I have done some stuff in my life, like that I'm not this perfect person that has never broken a rule. Just to tell you, I have friends on this app who know what I was like in high school. And they know that me smoking a cigar once in a while is not the naughtiest I've ever been in my life. And that's the other thing I'm worried about. What happens when my kids find out about the real nonsense I got up to as a young person, as a teenager and as a young man? Will their minds be completely blown? Will their worlds be completely shattered? How do we get to that point? Hopefully they're fully adult before they hear this, because I don't think they'll be able to cope with it. Or do I let them know about it now so that there's no expectation built over time? I don't know. How do we deal with this? How do we let our children know the real story of who we are without encouraging them to be like that? How do we encourage them to be better while also giving them a realistic view of what adults are like? This parenting gig is hard, guys.